I thought I would respond to a few comments before running off to bed, because really I'm not very well, and I can't seem to shift this cold. Without day nurse, it seems an impossibility, and I'm very much under the weather at the moment, actually. But is it lamestream media says, you seem really angry that some people believe there's a deep state that has a grasp on our democracy. Why is it such a reach for you? Instead of smearing people, why don't you do some research and bring back your arguments? Instead, we get 360 videos on Ukraine and 283 videos on Nadine Dorries. Nadine Dorries is spelt wrongly. I'm sure she would have something to say about that. I don't think I make very many videos about Nadine Dorries these days, which is something of a regret. I quite enjoy videos about Nadine Dorries, so I think that's untrue. But and equally, I haven't made very many videos about Ukraine in the last 4 or 5 months. I've been making more videos about Israel, and again, I think that's to my discredit. So you're correct that I should be making more. You're incorrect that I've emphasized that over the deep state. Well, no, you're correct about that too. I don't think there is a deep state. Now, why do I say that? Because I was interviewed for 4 programs by Turkish TV about the deep state and about the influence of masonry and all this other sort of mystical mumbo-jumbo. And I find the topic fascinating, deeply fascinating. But I'm afraid I think the conclusion is absurd. There is no deep state. The deep state, incidentally, just so that you are fully aware, was a term coined in Turkey and then exported and used in the United States and various other places by people who want to see a single solution to a problem. There isn't a single solution to a problem. There is no conspiracy theory that works. Conspiracy is about a tidy ending. We're not living in a novel. We're living in the real world, and I'm afraid, lamestream media, you're just wrong. Charming, but wrong. And then there's a lot of stuff about Angela Rayner. Myself, I think the Rayner defence has become far bigger than the original story. Is it really right that Keir Starmer spends hours reading the Liz Truss book but can't find the time to read Rayner's tax advice? That's such a good point. I think if Angela Rayner just came out and said what happened, then everyone would understand. It's all the deniers and games that get irritating. That's Danny Murphy. I'm inclined to agree. And the problem is it doesn't matter whether the tax advice that Angela Rayner got was right or wrong. The fact is she got it. Now, it may be right, it may be wrong. She may have done something that was technically erroneous, but it's a technicality, and it's a small amount of money, and no one is disputing that she got advice. And I think that's the bottom line. The more interesting story is not whether Angela Rayner was right or wrong, whether Angela Rayner has done something inappropriate. The more interesting story is that it is impossible to sort out tax on your own. It's become an impossibility. And in a country where we have a largely educated population, that shouldn't be the case. People should be able to do their tax clearly. People should be able to fill in forms clearly. This morning I got a message on my phone from the NHS, and they'd sent me a letter, and in order to see it I had to fill in my name, my date of birth, and my postcode, and I did so, and I was told I was wrong. I tried many variants on that, and I eventually rang up. I looked for the number of the relevant hospital and rang them up. And I got through to the um, public, what was it, the public administrations department. And it turned out that they'd got the wrong address for me. And what is so extraordinary is I'd been into that hospital about a month ago, and I'd established that they'd got the wrong address for me. I'd corrected the address. They'd corrected it on their systems, but their systems didn't interface with this public service department. Well, why not? And they say, well, we don't talk to the haemophilia department. Well, why not? So they had the correction which was made in the hospital didn't get through to them. And it's that level of absurdity which seems to dominate our bureaucracy. So rather than dealing with the real issue, which is to produce clear and accurate bureaucracy, the bureaucrats don't talk to one another. They're being paid a huge amount of money. I know bureaucrats in the NHS who are being paid £100,000, £90,000, £120,000 for doing relatively little. They don't go out on strike. In fact, one of them, I think, his job is to ring up doctors and get them to come in and do temporary work. But he doesn't go on strike, ever. He's very well paid for doing very little. He takes a lot of time off. And, he's got a cushy number. And yet the doctors who are the junior doctors are being paid so much less than he is. So much less. And they're doing real work. And our lives are in their hands. There's something wrong when the bureaucrats cannot get their bureaucracy right, are constantly making mistakes, and are overpaid, while their real people are being underpaid and overworked. How is that? How is that correct? And how is it correct that these bureaucrats can produce forms which are incomprehensible, which are full of faulty English, poor punctuation, and which means something different, where the English sentences mean something entirely different to what is being asked, where your answer is designed to be wrong. How do we explain that? I can't, except to say that it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong.